All right, we're back here at Double Vision, your vision, our vision, Double Vision. Darlene, hi, how are you?
Hi, Steve.
Yeah,
We are back. It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. I don't think summer's ever ending.
Now, what you know, it's going to happen October 31st when the kids go trick-or-treating. It's going to be rainy and cold because that's pretty much how it usually goes.
Well, we'll pray for good weather on Halloween time.
I think.
You know, we have a special guest here, Maxine Broderick, who is running for District Court Judge here in Nassau County. Maxine, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Yeah, talk about, well, we know each other from the Hempstead Boys and Girls Club. How important is that for you, first of all, to be part of that?
Well, as Steve mentioned, he and I know each other from the Hempstead Boys and Girls Club, and we both have the honor of sitting on the board there. And the Hempstead Boys and Girls Club is an after-school program for students from the village of Hempstead, and it is designed to give them a safe place to be after school. And so it's important to me to mentor young people. In the sense that if they're in a safe place and they're learning life skills and they're taking care of their studies, etc., that they're not going to be in a position where they can find themselves in trouble. From what I understand, most young people get in trouble between the hours of 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. while their parents are still working.
And how important is the community of Hempstead for the work that you do? Why focus in on Hempstead?
Well, the reason that I focus on Hempstead in terms of my community work is I'm proud to say that I'm a lifelong resident of the village of Hempstead. I recently turned 45, so I've lived in Hempstead for 45 years. I'm a product of the Hempstead public school system. I attended elementary school in Hempstead up to a certain point, and thereafter I attended St. Agnes in Rockville Center. I'm a graduate of Sacred Heart Academy in Hempstead. I'm a graduate of Fordham University and a graduate of Brooklyn Law School. And Hempstead is vitally important to me because it's the community that I was raised in and the community that I still live in to this day. And also, I got my start delivering newspapers delivering Newsday in Hempstead. And so my siblings and I, we passed down the same paper route for 10 years. There were 4 of us. Wow. So I worked off the books, delivering Newsday when I was about 12 years old. And then my first official job, I've already been a village employee. My first official job was working at the Hempstead Public Library as a high school student.
Wow. So when you delivered newspapers, were you on your bike throwing the papers, or did you go door to door, actually?
Well, both. I'll do you one better.
And I wasn't going to say that. She's beautiful. I don't see her just whipping newspapers on the bicycle, but yet she's tough. So you could be right on that.
I used to throw my papers all over. So
but I think she
came
placed
back
them
to get
nicely.
my money.
I think Maxine placed them very
there
nicely.
There we go. Let's see what she has to say.
Well, I'm a child of the 80s. And so I delivered my newspaper sometimes on a skateboard.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Did you have your Walkman on too?
No. If you're on a skateboard, safety tip.
Yeah,
you should not be distracted by, you should be paying attention.
This is true.
Right. That's right.
Very good point there.
That's right. Talk about the position you're running for.
So the position I'm running for is District Court Judge. And that is a district court judge in the district of Nassau, in Nassau County. So this is a judge. This is a position for a judge. It's a court of criminal jurisdiction. So it's a court of limited jurisdiction, and that means it's both criminal and it's civil. So on the criminal side, it's a misdemeanor court, and a misdemeanor is any kind of offense that is punishable with jail time up to 1 year. And on the civil side, it's the matters that come before the court are landlord and tenant matters,
right,
small claims court, and any kind of civil dispute up to $15,000 in controversy. And the other thing is there is some felony jurisdiction, but it's very limited in the sense that I would be in a position to be arraigning folks in felonies. And then after the arraignment, it then goes to the higher court, which is the county court in Mineola.
Now, Election Day is coming up November 7th. How's your campaign going?
My campaign is going great. Judicial candidates, we don't have any sort of polling. So, kind of my polling is anecdotal. I'm out there all of the time. I go to street fairs. I've visited quite a number of churches. I've gone to many Meet the Candidate nights. And the feedback I feel that I'm getting in support is phenomenal. And I had the privilege of giving the address at Sacred Heart Academy for, in June, the commencement address. And I was able to address about 1,000 people then, and that was the kickoff to my campaign. So I think that things are going quite well.
And your jurisdiction, where do you cover so people out there understand the geographical area?
The geographical area is the entire town of Hempstead. So the entire town of Hempstead is about 60% of Nassau County. So I live in the village of Hempstead, and so my neighbors in Garden City, Rockville Center, Valley Stream, as far as Elmont, Seaford, Wantagh, Long Beach.
A large amount of,
large amount
of communities there.
Yes.
Getting to, for the people out there, what are your qualifications for something like this?
My qualifications is I'm experienced as a judge in the past. I am formerly the village court justice in Hempstead. So I sat in the village court in my own town. And the responsibilities in village court are for code violations. So when you notice that your neighbors don't mow their lawn, they'll receive some sort of citation from the village, and they appeared before me. Also, vehicle and traffic violations appear before village court justices, as well as building code violations. So the village of Hempstead is the largest village, I believe, in New York State, with 55,000 residents.
Wow.
And so one of our issues is overcrowding, unfortunately, and that's a safety concern.
Right.
And so those sorts of, those landlords appeared before me as well, and there was a small degree of criminal jurisdiction there as well. So misdemeanor criminal jurisdiction, for example, as it relates to Hofstra students. And so, Hofstra students, they're wonderful young people in my community. However, they do have a tendency to patronize bars on Hempstead Turnpike and possibly, show identification that isn't theirs. And that can lead to, misdemeanor charges.
Well, you keep very busy, and here I was thinking more that they were parking and they were getting more in trouble along the lines of just parking and getting to class, but not even realizing the situation that goes on with the misdemeanor with the bars and whatnot on Hempstead Turnpike. So it's interesting.
So what would be your vision if you were elected? What would be your vision for the upcoming year or years after?
Well, this is I'm running for a 6-year term. And so I'm hoping if I do have the privilege and the honor of ascending to the bench, it's very simple. I want to serve with integrity and distinction. And, what people should look for in a judicial candidate is someone who's knowledgeable and someone who understands the community. And I do understand the community. I'm a part of it. I'm deeply engaged in my community. And I think that I would bring a different perspective. It's important to have diversity on the bench, diversity in terms of more women on the bench and more people of color. And that's not to say anything about people who are not women or people of color. Certainly they're wonderful people and very well qualified, but there are others that are qualified too, and I happen to be one of them. And also with respect to qualifications, I have been screened by the Nassau County Bar Association, and I've been found well qualified to sit specifically in district court.
Wow, that's very impressive. And you bring up the word diversity, because diversity is so important to all the work that I do, and I know Darlene does. How important it is to bridge that gap and bring people closer together, because sometimes in this climate, people could drift apart.
Diversity is vital, and it's vital for, a couple of reasons. I think it's important, coming from the village of Hempstead, we are largely a community of Black and Latino, Long Islanders. And I believe it's important, and this particular court is in the village of Hempstead, for young people that we work with to see people who look like them that are in positions of, positions of responsibility.
Right.
That's one reason. The second reason is a large number of people who come into that court are from all different backgrounds. And so, as I said, I think that the people who sit on the bench should be reflective of the communities they're serving.
Right.
And so diversity strengthens communities.
Right. And in your professional work, what's the most challenging aspect of it and the most rewarding aspect of your work now?
Well, the most challenging aspect is professionally, I've practiced in a number of areas. When I began, I'm a solo practitioner, so I don't work with a law firm. And so when I began, I was a generalist. So I practiced in the area of consumer bankruptcy, real estate law, foreclosure defense, criminal defense, landlord and tenant matters, and in recent years, I've focused on matrimonial and family law. And so the thing is when you're dealing with matrimonial and family law, matrimonial simply means divorces,
Right.
that when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with people at their absolute worst, I have to say. Because the two things that are in jeopardy are access to their children and their money is in jeopardy or their assets.
Right.
And so it really, unfortunately, can bring out the worst in people. And so the greatest challenge, personally, is dealing with people who are simply being petty because they're hurt emotionally. And I understand that people get hurt emotionally, but they try to take it out during the litigation process. And that doesn't serve them well, and it definitely doesn't move proceedings along.
Right. And the most rewarding aspect of your job?
The most rewarding aspect of my job is when parties cooperate and I'm able to settle a matter. And everyone walks away not happy with the situation, because at the end of the day, a divorce is a family that's no longer intact.
Right.
But, things are good when I can help people kind of establish and move on to a new normal.
Yeah.
Right. And your supporters, your campaign supporters or family or friends, how important are they in your life?
Oh, they're vitally important. I wouldn't be here without my parents. My father worked for the fire department as a dispatcher for 33 years, so I come from a working class background. And my mother was a public school teacher in New York City schools. And they both made very big sacrifices in order to send myself and the siblings to the schools that we went to. And so without them, I wouldn't be sitting here. I started off life, I'm adopted, and so I was brought into the Broderick home as a foster child. And so I was given a very firm foundation, and I'm very family oriented, and I hope those are values that I can bring to the bench should I be elected.
You're very open about everything, and I think that shows a lot. And it also, there's a lot of trust coming from you, and you're well spoken. I think that I just wish you all the best. I really do. You're a very comfortable person that I think people are going to gravitate to. I just get that feeling. So this is must be really excited for this.
Yeah, thank you, and I hope the voters feel the same way.
Getting back to
Yes.
that, where can the voters find you on the ballot?
Okay. So I have the endorsement of the Democratic Party, and I do appear on 5 lines. I'm in the general election on November the 7th, and in my race, there are 6 candidates. And so the top 3 vote getters in my race will win the seats. So hopefully I'll be in the top 3 in terms of vote getters. So I will appear on the Democratic line, I'll appear on the Green Party line, the Women's Equality line, the Working Families line, and the Reform Party line.
Wow.
So that's 5 lines where people could support me.
Wow. And if they had any further questions, want to contact you, how can people get a hold of you, either before the campaign or after the campaign?
Well, I would encourage people before the campaign. I have a Facebook page and a website. My website is www.broderick4judge.com. And my Facebook page, I believe, is Broderick for Judge. You can look it up on Facebook.
Okay. And again, if there are young people out there, what message would you give to them? Because times now it's difficult for young people to not only graduate but to make career choices and to make the right decisions in life, and it's so easy to make the wrong ones. So someone in your position and has so much experience and connection to the community, what advice would you give to young people?
The advice I would give young people, and this is something, maybe it's a bit of a cliche, but I often speak to, I recently spoke to some young ladies, some teenagers, and the advice I would give them is, don't do permanent things with temporary people. And I think that doesn't just relate to one's, intimate or personal life. I think that can carry over into just making decisions overall. So make good decisions, because it really is going to matter.
Okay. Maxine Broderick, running for District Court Judge on November 7th. We want to thank you so very much for joining us here on Double Vision, and I hope you could come back after the election.
That would be great.
It would be my pleasure.
That'd be great. We wish you all the best. And for anybody that wants to reach out to Double Vision, you can go to our Facebook page as well, and that would be Double Vision at 1240 WGBB. And you can also tweet us at Double Vision OA, and then you can go to our website too at www.doublevisiononair.com.
And Double Vision could be heard on WGBB 1240 AM or 95.9 every Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. So tune in or listen in or kind of contact us on social media. But Maxine Broderick, thank you so very much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
you.
We are back here in Double Vision, and next to us we have Dr. Joe Smith, Executive Director of Long Beach Reach. Long Beach Reach has served the community residents since 1970, providing comprehensive social, psychological, educational, and legal assistance for individuals and families. Dr. Smith, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Call me Joe, please.
All
Steve.
right, Joe. But, Joe, you and I have a little rapport going over the years. And,
Yes, we have.
You were, first of all, you're one of my favorite bosses. You really are in tune to the staff, but also the community of Long Beach. How important is that for you?
Well, it's very important to me. I've devoted my whole professional life to serving community. I believe firmly in community-based services. I think that's where people live. That's where people grow up. That's where people struggle, and I think that's where they need to receive services. When they're in need for help. So, I've committed myself, and along with many others, to ensure that we have good, strong community-based services available for people when they have needs.
And talk about Long Beach Reach has been there for going on 47 years.
That's right.
47 years,
Yeah,
and they have
wow,
a big
it's amazing.
fundraiser coming up,
Okay,
which we
we
have
do.
to mention.
We're going to talk more about that in a little while. But
Yes.
47 years, what have you been doing in the community for all that time?
Well, for 47 years, we've provided outpatient chemical dependency treatment services for people and family members of individuals who are struggling with drug abuse or drug addiction. And we provide a full array of individual, family, group treatment modalities, school outreach services, case management services. And the agency has grown over these 47 years, Steve. We've expanded our services to include juvenile justice intervention efforts, teen pregnancy prevention and services. And in this last year, it's been very exciting. We've actually received licensure and have instituted a mental health clinic.
Wow.
After Hurricane Sandy, the mental health clinic that existed in the community was literally washed away. And that left the community with no mental health clinic services. So we sought licensure and some funding, and we were able to start up the clinic about a year ago. So in addition to the chemical dependency clinic, which we've had for these past 47 years, we now have a full array of mental health services available to the residents in the community.
It's so important because there's a lot of folks out there struggling with dually diagnosed issues.
Yes.
And sometimes some people, clinicians, look at one and not the other. So
Right.
having both aspects covered under Long Beach Reach is very important.
Yeah, and it's consistent with our philosophy and our orientation over the years. We've always seen chemical dependence or substance abuse issues as part of a constellation of issues that individuals struggle with. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but there are separate licensing and separate regulatory entities that we have to relate to. But, it's not like, well, today's Monday and we're going to deal with your depression and tomorrow's Tuesday, so then we'll deal with your chemical dependence. The issues are interwoven and the treatment needs to be integrated. And so that's what we've always striven to do. And now the licensure that we have allows us to serve a broader population of those who may not have a primary chemical dependence disorder.
Right.
May have a primary mental health disorder and vice versa, as well as those who really do have co-occurring disorders.
Right. Tolene?
Well, amongst all the wonderful programs that you offer to the people out there, there was one that I was reading about. It's the Harriet Eisman Community School. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The Harriet Eisman Community School is an alternative high school diploma program. We serve youngsters for whom the traditional educational system inadequately serves or bypasses. These are youngsters who have not been successful in the traditional system and need an alternative. So we provide a small, more intimate setting, an opportunity for kids to form relationships with adults, healthy relationships, to be able to work closely with our staff as well as other students, and find a path to be able to fulfill their educational goals. So over these past years, the school started in 1972, and over these past years we've had over 1,700 graduates.
It's
These are
wonderful.
youngsters who once would have been considered dropouts or pushouts. and most of them have gone on for further education.
And these are high school diplomas,
They're
not
high school.
equivalency.
No.
That's lovely.
We're a registered non-public school, and so students that graduate from our program receive a regular high school diploma.
And it's probably safe to say without a program like Harriet Eisman, these individuals probably wouldn't receive a high school diploma.
Well, that's right, Steve. In the past, these would have been youngsters who would have either been dropped out or forced out of school, would have been without an education, would have had closed doors instead of now open doors.
Right.
And that's really been our goal throughout, to give kids an opportunity to have another chance, to have the opportunity for success. And that's really so important. We talk about things like mental health concerns, many of them, and we talk about substance abuse issues. For many, what that translates to is the pain that comes with a lack of opportunity, a lack of hope in the future. And so what we try to do, particularly in our alternative high school, is to restore that sense of hope and opportunity.
Well, the world is difficult enough. It is hard to get by without having any kind of disability or a disorder or a substance problem. So it's phenomenal that you're able to do that for these children and to give them hope. And I mean, the children are our future. So it's
well, they
lovely.
are. And I think the one thing I would say from a public policy standpoint, I think it's sad that as a society, we invest so much in the way of resources in criminal justice efforts. Our motto seems to be, let's lock up as many people as we can. Right. This country represents less than 5% of the world's population, yet we account for 25% of the world's incarcerated population. To me, that's kind of odd for a nation that prides itself on being a place of hope and opportunity and justice. So, I think that if we invested the resources that are really necessary to provide treatment for people who need treatment, right, and prevention services to hopefully prevent someone from going down the path of chemical dependence or addiction, we would save lives, most importantly, but we'd also save a phenomenal amount of money. We spend $74 billion a year in this country on criminal justice efforts, prosecution, and incarceration. And 80% of the jail population are people with either undiagnosed or untreated chemical dependence disorders. We can add to that the tremendous number of people who have undiagnosed or untreated mental health disorders. We spend 1% of that on treatment efforts. So I'd like to see the dialogue change from the country that locks up the most people in the world to the country that ensures treatment on demand for those people who have the need for outpatient services or inpatient services for chemical dependence or mental health concerns.
Right. And to switch gears a little bit, the nation's struggling with heroin epidemic,
yes,
and opiates, and Long Island struggling. What's Long Beach Reach? What's their involvement in this at this point?
Well, we serve people who have problems with drug and alcohol issues of all varieties. And certainly in recent years, the numbers of people with opiate addiction has increased dramatically. And Long Island is very high in the number of people who have fatal overdoses, for example. Right. On Long Island in general, we have, statistically speaking, we have 1.5 deaths per year. Wow. As a result of drug overdoses.
I have some statistics here. 91 Americans die each day from heroin or opioid abuse. 300,000 died in 1995. They say that the problem has worsened, and the public health experts are now estimating that the nationwide overall 500,000 people could die from the epidemic over the next 10 years. It's unfathomable.
It is. It absolutely is. I think that it probably is translating to even higher numbers than those in recent years. And I think the expectation is that it will grow. And I think that people are surprised at that. But really, when you look at what our public policy is, we don't treat drug addiction or drug problems as a public health issue.
Right.
And yet that's what it is. When we dedicated ourselves to eradicating polio, we invested tremendous resources and energy and efforts in doing that, and we essentially eradicated When we devoted massive effort in addressing the AIDS epidemic, it took a while to get past the stigma and to get past the resistance to doing that. But when massive efforts were made, we have reduced the incidence of AIDS dramatically in recent years. I think we could do the same thing with drug addiction. If we stopped treating it simply as a criminal justice matter and recognized it and treated it for what it is, which is a public health concern.
Right. For families, what 3 steps would you give them if they had a young one or someone in their family struggling with an addiction at this point?
Well, the first thing is, hard as it is to acknowledge that there is a problem.
I agree with that.
I think that that's number one. The second thing is to reach out to those resources that are available, whether it's programs in the community like Long Beach Reach, and there are many programs like that here in Nassau County and throughout the nation. And the third is to be prepared for the long haul. This is not a problem that happened overnight.
Right.
And it's not a problem that will be resolved overnight, either for an individual or for a family or for a community or for a nation.
Right.
We've got to be in it for the long haul. I think all too often we expect results to be quick,
Right.
And they're not.
Right.
I think addiction and substance abuse have torn apart families, and it's devastating. It devastates lives, and it's critical that we continue to offer these supported services. So I know you have a fundraiser coming
do,
up. So how can people get involved with this fundraiser and support the Long Beach Reach?
Well, first of all, I would encourage people to go to our website, www.longbeachreach.com, which will give you a full description of all of the services that we offer throughout Nassau County. And by the way, it's not limited only to Long Beach. We have 3 locations where our clinics operate. Long Beach is our primary and the foundation of the agency, but we also have clinics in Lynbrook and in Port Washington. So we really providing services from shore to shore. So, and on that page, there'll be information about our fundraiser, the upcoming fundraiser that's being held on November 5th. It's an awards brunch, and we're honoring some terrific people.
I saw that.
We have the Long Beach Fire Department, the Volunteer Fire Department are being honored. Shelley Cepeda, who is a school social worker in Long Beach. The Honorable Tom DiNapoli, our New York State Comptroller, who's been a great supporter and friend of the agency for many years, and Evelyn Strauss, who's been a terrific volunteer in the Port Washington area, a ball of energy, who has done some incredible things, including tremendous fundraising for a foundation that she founded in honor of her daughter, who suffered from leukemia. So, these are well-deserving individuals who we're honoring. And so the affair will be a breakfast. It's a brunch, actually, from 9:30 to 12 on November the 5th. It's a Sunday morning at Temple of Voda in Oceanside. And you can purchase raffle tickets. We have donated tickets for Billy Joel concert on November 18th. And they're great, sweet.
I want that one.
They're great seats, Steve. So,
all right,
take a chance.
I'm there.
And the Long Beach Volunteer Fire Department will
Yes.
be there. They must
Yes.
do lovely things.
Well, they've been
Yes.
incredible
Yeah.
historically in the community. They supplement our paid fire department, and they respond whether it's 24 hours a day. And certainly one of the highlights, was Hurricane Sandy when all of the first responders were called to do incredible things while their own homes and families were suffering destruction from that storm. They nevertheless were there and served the community. And so we just want to recognize their
Right.
efforts.
It's just about 5 years,
Yeah.
too.
It's
I mean,
almost exactly 5
right,
years.
5
yeah.
years, so a lot has
Strange,
changed.
right? That's right. It's
Right.
coming up.
Right.
But we're almost out of time. But talk
Yes.
about your amazing staff, because a lot of the staff have been there for so many years
That's
to
right,
support
yeah.
your efforts, everybody's
Yeah.
efforts, the community efforts. That's what makes Long Beach Reach click.
Yeah, there really is. It starts with our board of directors who are unpaid volunteers, and they sort of provide the leadership and direction for the agency. And these are people with incredible commitment and dedication. So they have to be recognized because their support has gone a long way to making sure that our staff, first of all, put into place. We put a lot of effort on trying to recruit and maintain a staff of highly skilled professionals. We have social workers, psychologists, mental health counselors, educators, nurse practitioners. So we really pride ourselves on a dedicated and experienced staff. And you're right, Steve, many of our staff have been with us for 15, 20, 25, 30, some over 40 years.
Wow.
So it's amazing, and they are incredibly committed and dedicated. As I said, our commitment is to ensure that the best quality services that are possible can be offered and available to residents of all of the communities that we serve. And we serve individuals regardless of their ability to pay. These are
important.
services that are available to all.
Right. Well, Dr. Smith, Joe, thank you so very much for joining us here in Double Vision. We are honored by your appearance here, and we can't wait to be at the event in November.
Great.
That's
Looking
right.
forward to it. Thank you.
That's going to be great. And if anybody wants to go to our website, www.doublevisiononair.com, and you can find all our interviews and some other great things coming up in the fundraiser event as well.
All right. It's another
Thank
edition of Long Beach Reach, Dr. Smith, and Double Vision. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
As they're setting up, Hill and Ward have been a guest of various shows over the years, so take it away, guys.
Sometimes when I think about all the years I've been around, trying to make some sense, trying to figure out what's going down, looking for an answer, a purpose for my life on earth. Time to start believing, time to find a reason for my birth. Ready or not to believe in something, like it or not, it's time to be moving along. Wondering if I even really know who I am inside. So many years of trying to push away my feelings and hide. Now I'm getting closer to the end, and I need to know, God, if you're real, feel my feelings, let it overflow. Ready or not to believe in something, see what you got at the heart of your life song. You can't not believe in something, not to believe is believing in nothing at all. Ready or not to believe in something, like it or not, it's time to be moving along. Ready or not to believe in something, see what you got at the heart of your life song. Ready or not to believe in something, see what you got at the heart of your life song. Of your life song. Of your life song. Of your life song. Ready or not.
Amazing. Awesome. That is really cool, guys.
Thank you.
And
Are
that-
you ready or not?
I'm ready or not. You know, I already won this battle with the toilet paper thing, so I'm ready.
I got to agree with Darlene.
Thank
You agreeing with Darlene? Okay.
I do.
All right, so we're not going to go back to the toilet paper, but
I'm staying out of the shower.
No, There we go.
I'm under.
okay, there we go.
I'm
There we
under.
go. So talk about your relationship together and how it's important for the audience to connect and your connection with the audience. Talk about that a little bit.
The main thing that I always feel is that it's not about us. So the lyrics are written for a reason, the music is written for a reason. So what we try to do is forget us and kind of just get the message out there. And, you know, when it's secular, same idea, but when we're doing some Christian stuff too, we want it to be all about His glory, not ours.
Right.
So, you know, you have to try to keep that in check, you know.
Right. Now, can you actually feel the energy from the audience? And how does that inspire you when you're performing?
Definitely. You feel that way, Charlie?
I do.
Yeah,
I definitely
yeah.
do. Yeah.
And different venues, it's different, but I think that it definitely, when you feel that feeling, your passion rises too, and it makes it even better for us to just forget ourselves and realize what we're doing, why we're doing it, because sometimes pride and ego, you know, get in the way of a lot of things in life. So, yeah, there you go, Anthony.
You can tell. You can tell when people
we
are
know.
connecting. Yeah, you can tell when people are connecting. It's
And when they're
unmistakable.
not, you make a conscious effort too to just say, you know, and check yourself. So you always want to check your own motives,
Right.
you know, before you go out to do anything. So
Right. And some bands, most bands either play either secular or mainstream music or Christian or faith-based music. You guys kind of mix it up and bridge the gap. Why is that important for you?
I consider it like crossover music, because I feel that a lot of times you can't really bang somebody over the head with your message. You know, even,
Although people try.
and I feel like if you, pretty much we're all human beings. We all go through struggles, trials, tribulations, and if you can relate on that level, you can let God do the rest.
Right.
It's really not up to us to do it. It's just kind of just say that we're all in this thing together, this thing called life, and it's a struggle and it's tough, but it's also beautiful and wonderful.
Right.
And all along, the music for me has always been about positivity.
Right.
You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a song about God, you know,
Right.
but the songs that have always inspired me are ones about hope.
Yeah.
And
Peace, love, harmony.
Peace and love, baby.
Yeah,
and this,
we're hopeless hippies.
And this
I was
this
gonna say
world,
we're
it's
back
so
in the 70s.
and it's so divided at times. So we need peace, love, and harmony. And through music, it doesn't get better than that.
Once upon a time, I thought that the music was bringing us together. I was a kid. It was the 60s. But that's a dream, and I've never lost that dream. And I think that there's a lot to it. Because music is a way of praying.
Universal
without
language.
words.
That's right.
It's a universal language.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you have another song for us. Tell us about the song.
This song, this is called Stand and Sing. And what we're talking about before about some people beating you over the head with the message, I really think that we both think that it's more about relationship than any particular doctrine, you know, and ultimately your relationship with God is between you and God, regardless of what somebody else says or writes or does, and that's kind of what this song is about. But I'll also say that somebody who was very inspirational in my life was Eileen's dad, John Hill. And John Hill used to record with us. We called him One Take Jake.
He had Alzheimer's, and towards the end, it was really difficult. But music was one of the last things to go.
Wow.
And he had a beautiful voice, and so the band was very gracious and allowed him to come up and sing with us. And then I would take a karaoke machine. We'd go around to nursing homes and sing for, he would say the old folk, and even though he was an old folk, you know, and he would tell his doctors that he had a gig, and so it made the last part of a terrible situation the best that it could be.
And he would come up at the rock and roll services and sing with us at the end, and he would stand and sing, and he had an artificial leg.
Yeah, he had an artificial leg.
So it wasn't
and,
easy for John to stand
but
and sing.
he was very positive. He always say, another day above ground's a good day.
Yeah,
But
music is healing.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is.
healing.
But
Music is
anyway,
healing.
this song was not really written about John, but at the point where I was polishing it up, he was going through my mind like constantly. It was around the time he was passing. So this song is about a personal relationship with God, and it's inspired by Eileen's dad.
All right, here we go again. Live radio.
Everything that I have ever been told about you turned out to be totally useless or totally true. Well, I would would still be here. I would still be looking to you to show me the wonder and the way of what you want me to do.
What you want me to do, and I will stand and sing for you. Of all of the things that you lead me to feel to be true, and I will stand and sing for you. For you are the word and the way and the life and the truth.
If everything that I have ever been told about you turned out to be crazy, you're the only single true point of view. I don't know about all that.
I don't know what to say.
But I am here today, so let's play. Come on and show me your way.
Come on, show
Come
me
on, show
your
me,
way,
and
I will stand and sing for you. All of the things that you lead me to feel to be true,
yeah,
I will stand and sing for you. For you are the word and the way and the light and the truth.
whoa, 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 whoa. I listen to everything that I have ever been told about you. All of the hope and the fear and the doubt and the do. Yes, and all of the praise and the wars that we raise over you. Still we are here today, let us pray, let us come to know you. Let us know you, and I will stand and sing for you. Of all of the things that you lead me to feel to be true, yeah, I will stand and sing for you. For you are the word and the way and the light and the truth. Yeah, 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 I will stand and sing for you. In all of the noise and confusion, we're singing to you. And we will stand and sing for you. In all of the wonder and glory, we're singing with you. We're singing with you. We stand and we sing. We're singing to you. We stand and we sing. We're singing with you.
Got checked? Two simple words that demand an immediate answer. Yes or no? Are you aware of your family history? Education and early prevention could be the difference between life and death. Schedule an appointment to have a mammogram partnered with a sonogram today. This is your call to action. Get it done.
Hi, and welcome back to Double Vision. We are here in the studio with a wonderful woman, and we're going to get to her in a minute, but we want everybody to tune in to our website, which is am1240wgbb.com, doublevisionoa.com, and of course visit us on our Facebook page, Double Vision at 1240 WGBB, and we want to hear from you. And we have a segment called More Than a Mom, which is where we honor and we recognize a wonderful mom, woman, you're laughing, a survivor. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so we are recognizing Tara Sanders,
for her survival with breast cancer, and we're going to hear all about her story. And thank you. Thank you for being here in the
Thank you
studio.
for asking me.
Thank you for sharing your story. So let's start with, how did you find out, or when were you diagnosed with breast cancer?
It was a routine mammography, well, sonogram, because most people that I know anyway don't really find it on mammographies. They find it on sonograms, because the younger you are, the denser your breasts are. So when they do a sonogram, it's I think a little bit more reliable, at least in my case it was. And then after that, they found something, they biopsied it, and then it went from there, MRI and so forth.
So this was, in what year were you diagnosed?
2012.
So I know that you had children, and the diagnosis was just after, I think you gave birth to your twins, or?
No. They were, my son was 8 and the twins were 5. So it wasn't after.
And, okay, so I'm sure that was a shock to you.
Yes.
So
To
when
say the least.
you were diagnosed and you got this news, who was the first person that you
My husband.
you called?
Yes, my husband was the first person. It's a very strange feeling. It's a little bit like an outer body experience. 'Cause
I'm sure.
I also think when you're younger, I'd like to think of myself as younger.
You are very young.
Yeah.
She's very young.
Yeah. I think it's like, it just doesn't happen to you.
Right.
It happens to someone who's a lot older. So when you find this out, you're like, wait, me?
Well, I think a lot of it is too, you have to be proactive. And now mammograms, I believe, are starting at 40.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, and I know the law, they're trying to move it now to 35 because younger women are coming down with breast cancer.
Yeah, I was having mammography since I'm 30 because
Okay.
I have a big family history, but I am not BRCA positive. Although every female in my family, it seems like, had breast cancer. So I started very young, but it just goes to show you do need to be on top of it, because I wasn't BRCA positive. I didn't fall into the, you have to start early kind of thing. I just chose to because of my history.
So you're proactive.
Right.
Which I think is probably the most important thing with breast cancer, is to be proactive and to be aware of your body. So it's not anything you found.
No.
It was just a routine checkup, which you figured, I'll be okay.
Right.
And then from there, what was the next step, and what was in the story of what happened with your choices you had to make?
Well, like I said, after that they do an MRI, and they found some more spots, and they biopsied them. And usually they do that just, they said, it's not going to be probably anything, but we just want to make sure. And they did, and they wound up finding more spots of breast cancer. And it was in both of my breasts, just not the one that was detected on the sonogram. So once that happened, I made the decision to have a bilateral mastectomy.
And that happened from the time, is that something that you choose to do very quickly, or is that something you have to wait?
They found it in July, and I had my surgery September 18th.
Okay. So it's hard. I'm sure it's so hard to live with in those couple of months prior to surgery. What was that like for you?
Like I said, it's very much an outer body. Like, you go through the motions, but I kind of kept just saying to myself, like anything else, this is a surgery, I'm going to do it, I'm going to get rid of it, and it's going to be done, and I'm going to move on.
And here you are.
And here I am. The hardest part was after I was done with the surgery, then they tell you to go to an oncologist to be followed up for, really the rest of your life. You have to just kind of be in contact. And that's what I thought it was. And I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, which I shouldn't have. And that's another reason to be very proactive if you unfortunately are faced with this, because I put it off, and when I went, I was told I had to do chemo. That was like the biggest blow out of everything. More so, I think, than finding out that I had cancer.
Right.
And they told me that I had to start within a week.
So
because there's a finite period of time after you remove something for chemo to be effective. And nobody really kind of told me that.
Well, I don't know if, it's just hearing the word chemo is scary in itself.
Right.
And then to know what you're faced, and we know the side effects are, you get sick, you're fatigued, your hair, you lose your eyebrow, you know, all that. And that's like the superficial part. But other than that, what else did you experience from the chemo?
You kind of learn after the first round. You kind of learn how your body reacts to it. So based on that, because I had children and my children didn't know, I told them I had an infection and that mommy needed surgery. But then when I had the chemo, I kind of figured out after the first round how my body reacted, and then I planned my life kind of accordingly.
Yeah.
You know, usually it was the fourth day that I was just not well at all. So I knew those were the days I made them play dates. Those were the days I didn't have to run around. Those were the days I, you know, made sure there was food in the house.
Right.
You know, the laundry was done, and you know, little things
Right.
like that, because I knew that those days I was not going to be able to accomplish anything.
How many rounds did you have to take?
4.
So you did 4 rounds. What was the separation between each round?
I believe, I think 6 weeks. No. Oh, I take that back. No, it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
So it's hard. It's hard to get your body back to recuperate, and then
Right. And then you
mentally
kinda
and
start
physically you're feeling good, and then you're back at it. And
well, you do. There's accumulation with chemo, and I think we were talking earlier before this, and there's so many things that can happen, and I just said to the oncologist, just tell me what's gonna happen. Like, what's 100% gonna happen to me? And he said, you're gonna be tired, and you're gonna lose your hair. And, you know, I remember crying, but that was the truth. Like, I still worked out, I still did all that, but there's accumulation of the exhaustion.
Right.
And until I stopped and started coming out of my body, I didn't actually realize how tired I really was going through it until I started feeling so much better. So you don't really feel better in between. It's because it kind of...
Well, it makes sense because you're just kind of getting by.
Yes,
And
yes. And I remember saying at like I think my 3rd round, I said that I felt like I burnt my tongue.
Okay.
And the doctor said, no, that wasn't you, that was medicine, that was me. And, you know, like, so little things kind of developed along the way.
Right.
But manageable. I mean, it's not, at least for me, it wasn't what you see on TV. You know, the throwing up and, you know, like all that. It was just more the exhaustion. And the hair.
And the hair. And I guess, you know, everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Absolutely.
body adjusts and can fight things and handle things better.
Yeah,
or not
absolutely.
as good. Getting to losing the hair, I know that a support system is a crucial thing when someone is suffering from cancer.
Yes.
Who was it that kind of took you by the hand and was your rock or your go-to person?
Well, unfortunately, it was a friend of mine who's no longer with us. I had met somebody years ago, and she really befriended me, and then she kind of like just disappeared for like a year, and then called me and invited me for lunch, and we had lunch, and she told me her story, which was that she had ovarian cancer, and she was going through a lot, and that's why she kind of had been not around. And I kind of was there for her, and then, ironically, this happens to me, and she wound up being my rock. And I just feel like there's a reason that this person stepped into my life and befriended me the way she did. And although we weren't the closest of friends, we shared something that was just extremely special, and she really helped me through everything.
And I think that is the importance, is to, people don't understand. People understand, and we're compassionate and sympathetic to a lot of things. However, it's not until you're faced with these challenges in life.
Mm-hmm.
So finding someone that went through it before, unfortunately that has passed, makes things a lot easier. They know what you're going through. It's
Right.
not someone saying, oh, you know, I feel for you. I mean, because people that haven't experienced it, we do the best we can, but not until you go through it do you understand.
Of course, everybody, you know, is great, but you can't understand until you walk in someone's shoes.
Tell me a little bit about when she was going through, I guess, remission.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to help her?
yes, I think helping me helped her.
Yeah.
Paying it forward helped her, and unfortunately it wasn't a very long window of time until she got sick again.
Which is hard.
Yeah.
Which is hard, and which is the unfortunate thing, which is why being proactive, getting checked, changing the laws, making sure women get mammograms at 35 is so crucial, and telling the survival stories for people out there that are struggling with their own survival stories, with their horrific stories. I mean, they need to hear that you can get through it, and there are people out there. Where could people go who would need support that don't have it?
Well, there's so many, I think, places that could offer, all hospitals, provide support systems and so forth. I have a friend who started a group called Bosom Buddies.
Right.
And so, there's always people there that would voluntarily speak to, people. But mostly I think it's, through an oncologist's office, there's a lot of support groups out there.
They provide that,
Mm-hmm.
which is wonderful. So there was a quote that you had said to me, which I have to resort to my notes, and hopefully I can find them. And it was, you are never cancer-free, you are just in remission. And I think that's really, it's a strong statement.
Well, that was said to me a few years ago, that it's something that you always live with. It's always in your rear view mirror, hopefully.
Right.
But that you are constantly, once you have cancer, you're always worried that it's,
So you're living with that fear.
Yes.
You'll always live with that fear.
I could be in remission the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And live a long life. But it's just always there because they don't know.
It always is. You just never know.
Right.
We're going to say to DorothyNovick.com for any information that you want to get to. I just thank you for telling your story. I think it needs to get out there. I think we need to hear about survivors. It's unfortunate the other circumstances, but I think the survivors, we need to hear your story. Any last words that you want to say, or
well, I was
to
gonna
anybody?
Say, I think one of the hardest things is the physical stuff that you go through that's long lasting after the surgery and the chemo's over, like losing your hair. And I think another area that might help is some of the wig companies also have people, like
Right.
support groups.
Right.
And I think that's the toughest part, because that stays with you.
It's hard. It's sensitive. It's hard. You don't, it's a whole new world that you have to get used to. But I love your spirit. I love your fight. I love you as a mom. I love you as a friend.
Thank you.
And and I just, again, you're out there, and you are, and what I love is you're an advocate for any kind of organization or foundation. And I think it's fantastic. So we're going to thank Tara Sanders to being in the studio here with us today. Get checked. There is help. And be healthy. Thank you.
Let's go. I just left the doc, got checked, I feel good. It feel good, don't it? I just left my job, got my check, I feel